Hey, hey, Blue Table fans! It's time for our next Hello. It's time for our next installment of how to play Warhammer 40K, because I want you to play 40K and enjoy it. Enjoy it to the max. And the only way you can do that is to know what you're doing. So, here we have a mob of orc boys. That's boys with a Z. You have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 boys. Here's a war boss. We're going to set him off to the side for the time being. And here is a regular a knob with a power claw. And over here you have a Space Marine captain. And here on this side you have a Space Marine veteran sergeant. So to understand challenges, the first thing you have to do is determine who are characters. There's two different types of characters. There's independent characters and characters. And if you look in you look in the back of the rule book, and it shows you in the reference section what is what. So a Space Marine sergeant has a CH next to his type. He's an infantry character. So that's this guy. A Space Marine captain is an infantry character, and then you go over to orcs. Let's see if I can find the orcs. Yep, there we go. So a knob is a character, and a war boss is also an infantry character. So that is an important distinction to make. So let's go ahead and go to the challenges section and take a look. Okay, so in the fight subphase, so that means after you've moved in your chargers, you can issue a challenge. So whoever's turn it is, we're going to say it's the orcs' turn. So they charged in, and here we are in this combat. So only one challenge can be issued per close combat. And so let's say the orcs say, you know what, I really don't feel like challenging for some reason. Now the Space Marine player, the player whose turn it is not, could issue a challenge, and if he doesn't, then nothing happens, obviously. And obviously you have to have a character in the combat to issue a challenge, so if this guy were dead already and the war boss were not in the combat, this unit of just old boys couldn't issue a challenge, and this guy couldn't issue a challenge because, well, nobody would be there to accept it. I guess technically he could, but there would really be no result. So, let's say the orc player said, you know what, I challenge, and you can do a little role playing with this. You can be like, I challenge you, you puny Yumi, to a duel to the death. And and then the Space Marine player was like, all right, you're on. He can't let that go unchallenged. All right, so let's say this captain were in this combat as well, and let's say the orc knob issued a challenge. You can accept the challenge with any one of your characters. The orc player doesn't get to decide who accepts the challenge. He can only issue it and wait to see who steps forward. So let's say the orc knob issues a challenge, and for whatever reason the Space Marine player doesn't want to answer the challenge. He says, you know what, none of my guys are really up for facing that power claw, so I'm gonna refuse your challenge. Now the orc player gets to choose one character from the enemy side from models that could have accepted. So in this case, that would be these two guys. And that model, so obviously he might pick the captain. I don't know if that's obvious, but say he picks the captain. This model can't strike any blows this turn. He is skulking amongst the ranks, not the stuff of heroism, the rulebook says. So if a unit consists only of a single character, then he has no choice but to accept the challenge. So that would look like this. So get rid of these boys. Let's say these guys are all dead, and it's only the captain facing off this horde of boys. So now the orc character could, the orc knob, he would have the option of issuing a challenge. And to issue a challenge, you have to be where you can fight. So if he were back here, he couldn't issue a challenge at all because he would be I do believe it is more than 2 inches away from the closest combatant. So, but anyway, now if this guy can't refuse the challenge at all because he has nowhere to hide. Okay, so now let's say the orc challenges and my veteran sergeant decides to step up to the plate. First off, the challenger, he is moved to go to the challengee, the person that accepted the challenge. So you do what's called in the rule book a swap. It says, now it is time to move the combatants into base contact with each other. Note that these moves cannot be used to move a character out of unit coherency. Also, later on, it says that difficult terrain or dangerous terrain doesn't make any difference. You don't make any tests for that. And then you swap him for a friendly model. So I would take out my knob, and I would choose a friendly model in base contact with the person that the model that accepted the challenge. And I would switch those two guys like this. So now those guys are in base contact. And I have to say, guess what? Warhammer 40K now is more closely approximating chess, because this is very complex how this works. So, now here comes the kicker, and possibly the most important part of challenges, which is the Lookout Sir rule. And undoubtedly you've heard a little bit about this. The Lookout Sir rule allows you to, if a character takes a wound, he can make a roll on a 4-up or 2-up. He transfers the wound to someone else. But guess what? In a challenge, that means this guy and this guy cannot Lookout Sir anymore. Whatever happens here, that's what happens there. Now, I would like to point out that there is a difference between this and challenges in Warhammer Fantasy. In Warhammer Fantasy, if this guy does 3 wounds to the knob, and the knob only has 2 wounds, you count 3 wounds towards combat resolution. However, in Warhammer 40K, that is not the case. It simply is maxed out with however many wounds he has. So there is something to be said by meeting a challenge with a lesser character. Okay, so now let's talk about another part of challenges, which is what's called moral support, or get him, boss, the rule book says. This is a case like this. All these other guys are out. All those guys are out. So it's only the captain. So now it's the orc's turn, let's say, and let's say all these guys got into close combat. Oh, they're gonna wipe this guy out, right? Oh yeah, he is in bad shape. So the orcs, they don't issue a challenge because they want to wail on this poor Space Marine captain. Let's turn him around so you can see him. Oh, does he look concerned? I don't think so. All right, so the captain, oh hello, I was a little out of focus there. Sorry guys. So now, so the orcs don't issue a challenge, but the Space Marine player, he says, you know what? I think I'm going to issue a challenge. So now the orc knob has the option of refusing. He's the only character in the combat. He has the option of refusing the challenge, in which case he simply doesn't strike any blows. He's not moved or anything. So he strikes no blows and the rest of the guys can attack. Or he could accept, in which case he gets what's called moral support. And that means for every 5 models, he gets a reroll. So instead of these guys just standing around and doing nothing, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 of them divided by 2 is 2. I do believe you round down for that one. So he would get 2 rerolls, and the rerolls can be used to hit, to wound, or saving throws. And the rerolls don't carry over. If they're not used by the end of the turn, they are gone. All right, let's talk about something called glorious intervention. So let's say this round of combat is fought out, and for some reason these 2 challengers, the Space Marine veteran sergeant, or the Space Marine sergeant rather, and the orc knob don't kill each other. They completely whiff. So now it's orc's turn again. Well, let's say it's Space Marine's turn. And this Space Marine captain is off, somewhere else, and in the assault phase he charges in. He can do what's called a glorious intervention. Basically, he makes an initiative test. Let's say he's coming from this direction to make it more interesting. He makes an initiative test, and he is swapped out as before. So the way I'm reading it, you could switch him out for this guy, or you could switch him out for this guy, or basically a model in contact with the challengee. And if for some reason he wasn't able to do that, then this knob would actually move over, and the challengee would be the one that's moved. You can only do one glorious intervention per turn. And that, sirs, is the more or less of challenges, which, by the way, is 2 full pages of pretty dense text. And I hope this puts you one step closer to feeling very confident about playing Warhammer 40K 6th edition. It's really a great game. I do want to plug BTP's painting service. That's what we do. We custom make whole armies, units, down to units, and even down to single models for you. We'll do pretty much anything if it's associated with acquiring, assembling, and painting your figures. We also have an absolutely fantastic web store with many full armies ready to go. In fact, these 2 forces that you see here, these are part of armies that are ready to go. And let me tell you, there's nothing like just getting your army in the mail, ready to play. It's like opening up a coffer full of jewels. It's Christmas morning. So thanks for tuning in, and hope you got your inspiration for the day.